Have you ever heard of a sickness being described as heat without form? It sounds a little mystical, right? But in traditional Chinese medicine, it's a very real and potentially very serious condition. Today, we're going to dive into Bai Hu Tang, the white tiger decoction. It's a legendary formula designed to hunt down this invisible inferno.
So what in the world is this heat without form? It's a pretty poetic term, but it actually points to a super specific and frankly dangerous state in the body. And to really get why the cure is so brilliant, you first have to understand the enemy it's designed to fight.
So here's our game plan. We're going to break it all down into 5 parts. First up, we'll get a handle on this special type of heat. Then, we'll properly introduce the white tiger formula. After that, we'll look at its strategy, how to know when it's needed, and just as important, when it's not. And finally, we'll touch on its incredible legacy.
Okay, let's start with the problem itself. See, in Chinese medicine, heat isn't just one thing. Not all heat is created equal. And understanding the nature of the heat you're dealing with, well, that's absolutely the key to choosing the right tool for the job. All right, so here's the main idea. Heat without form is this intense, body-wide fever that isn't attached to a physical substance, like phlegm or an infection you can pinpoint. The best way to think about it is like that shimmering heat you see rising off the asphalt on a blazing summer day. You feel that intense, oppressive heat, but you can't touch it, you can't grab it. That's the vibe of heat without form.
And this is where a really critical distinction comes in. TCM contrasts this with what's called heat with form. Now that's more like a burning log. It's localized, it has physical mass. And how do you deal with a burning log? You purge it, you get it out. But you can't purge a heat wave, can you? Heat without form is everywhere all at once, so it doesn't need purging, it needs clearing. You have to cool the whole system down. Getting this difference is, well, it's everything. Which brings us to our hero, the solution. A formula so effective, it's been a clinical superstar for nearly 2,000 years, the white tiger decoction.
Yep, this is the flagship formula from the legendary physician Zhang Zhongjing, all the way back around 220 AD. Its entire mission is to powerfully and precisely clear out that pervasive, formless heat from what's called the yang brightness channel. Think of this as one of the deepest energetic layers of the body, tied to the stomach and large intestine. When heat gets in this deep, you need a heavy hitter.
So, how does this thing actually work? What's the strategy? It's really as elegant as it is powerful. It's not a single shot, it's a multi-pronged attack to hunt down the heat and bring the body back into balance. First, it goes right after that blazing, body-wide heat. Step 2, it works to clear it from the deep interior. But, and this is what makes it so brilliant, it doesn't stop there. Intense heat literally burns up the body's fluids, right? So step 3 is to generate coolness and replenish what's been lost. And finally, step 4, it restores the whole system's balance, making sure that heat doesn't just flare right back up. Now this is a seriously potent medicine, which means knowing when to use it, and just as importantly, when to absolutely not use it is critical. So let's look at the classic signs. The textbook presentation is so famous, it has a nickname, the 4 bigs. We're talking about a big fever, a big sweat, a big thirst, and a big, surging pulse. And you can see how this paints a perfect picture of the problem. The internal heat is so intense, it's just blazing through the body, forcing fluids out as sweat, and consuming resources like crazy, which is what creates that powerful thirst and that booming pulse. But, and this is a huge but, real-world practice is always a bit messier than the textbooks. Get this. The famous 20th century physician Zhang Si-chun noted that in his clinic, only about 1/5 of the people who actually needed white tiger decoction had both the big sweat and the big thirst. It's such a great reminder that being a good clinician is an art, not just running down a checklist. And here we are at what is maybe the most important slide in this entire explainer, the safety warnings. Because this formula is so incredibly cooling, you absolutely cannot use it if the patient shows any signs of cold. If a headache pops up, if their hands and feet become icy, if they start saying, "I feel cold," or if they seem confused, you stop immediately. This is not a formula you mess around with. So, you might be thinking, why are we still talking about a formula from 220 AD? Well, because its core principles are so sound that its uses have actually evolved over time, proving its value again and again. Just look at this timeline. The white tiger decoction was originally designed for issues where a cold pathogen invades the body and transforms into heat deep inside.
But fast forward a few centuries, especially by the Qing dynasty, and you see brilliant physicians realizing, hey, this thing is perfect for treating severe damage from summer heat too. It had a similar presentation, that intense, pervasive heat. And today, it's still one of the foundational formulas in the clinic for these patterns.
And all this kind of brings us to a final thought. The story of the white tiger decoction isn't just about some old herbs. It's about a really sophisticated way of seeing the body as this dynamic, interconnected environment. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How can these ancient, really nuanced ways of understanding sickness reshape how we look at health and disease right now, today?